Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Nearshore Cafe podcast. I'm your host, Brian Sampson. If you have ever wondered what it would be like to start a business in Costa Rica, scale it and grow it, especially in that IT staffing and solution space, this is going to be a great show for you. We've got Doug Firestone. Before I introduce Doug, let me thank our sponsor, Plugg Technologies, plugg.tech. Great way to connect talent from all over Latin America to growing U.S. companies. Doug, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brian. How are you doing today?
I'm doing
Glad to
awesome.
be here.
You're calling in from sunny Florida, right?
I am. I'm based in Florida now.
Love it. Love it. Well, Florida's part of the story. Costa Rica's part of the story. Can't wait to get into all that. But tell us, life before the jungles of Costa Rica. What were you doing? How did you end up there?
Yeah, Brian, it's been a great journey for me. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I never meant to even be a business person, let alone an entrepreneur. 1999, during that Y2K time frame, someone led me to a person that said, "Hey, there's a need for IT staffing people." Didn't even know anything about it. I literally started a company when I thought there was a big boom. As you know, by January 1 of 2000, it was a bust. But I started my first company in June of 99. I had 15 consultants billing in 99. I persevered through 20 and 21. I'm sorry, wrong years. 2001, 2002. And I had like 50 consultants billing. We were based in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We persevered. We focused in on IT staffing, focused on building a recruiting engine, focused on hiring great people, which always ended up being kind of the mantra. That company kept scaling. Harrisburg, Philadelphia, nationwide. We ended up with doing $28 million in revenue, 6% net income. Clients were like Comcast, all the Blue Crosses, Time Warner, AOL back then, 3 or 4 states, and we were killing it. But then that recession started peeking around the corner, and I started thinking about how I could find other resources for my recruiting to backfill my recruiting teams. And, everyone was talking India, 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 and I didn't want to do India. So I started looking at nearshore options. So I'll pause there. I didn't know if I could keep going and talking.
Yeah. I can't wait to get into Costa Rica, but I think, let's recognize the size and scale that you built just in IT staffing. Did you have a particular niche? Were you doing generalist roles like Java developers, .NET, PeopleSoft, whatever?
Initially, I did anything IT, purely staff augmentation. We did some permanent placement because that always drops the bottom line nicely. But we really just did what everyone did, which was just hustle.
Yeah.
But then once we started building and became storytellers, it kind of took off. But it wasn't until I focused in on verticals that it really took off. And I tell all my friends in the industry, you got to get into verticals. And I'm not talking technologies, I'm talking about industries. Because if you pick the right ones and you do your research, it can drive up margins big time, but it really helps you scale nationwide. I got fortunate to get into Independence Blue Cross in Philadelphia and then Highmark in Pennsylvania for Blues. And then I was able to launch that nationwide, and we ended up in almost 30 Blue Cross Blue Shields in the United States.
Wow, incredible. And were you the primary salesperson, or like when did you start to grow that out?
Listen, when you're the founder and CEO, you always have to be the best salesperson.
Yeah,
But
sure.
no, I was very smart from the beginning. I didn't want to do it myself. I built out teams of very qualified people, both on the recruiting side and the sales side. And I've always been a believer that the engine that runs these type of companies is recruiting.
Yeah.
And so I always put a lot of emphasis and money into recruiting, compensated them well, and it always paid off for me.
Yeah. And Harrisburg, is that where you're from? Is that why you started it there?
Yeah, I was from Hershey, Pennsylvania, and I literally just kind of fell into it. I got super lucky, and I started all on my own. I got a guy that gave me $50,000 in free space and gave me a lead. And that's what I took it off on. I never had any other investments, never had any other partners or owners at all. I mean, I was mine for about 12 years.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, thank you.
If I remember, Harrisburg is like there's like a lot of government offices there.
Yep.
Was that one of
Some.
the
Yeah,
first
we did some.
projects here?
We were before the VMS systems hitting government, which drove down those margins. We
Yeah,
did play in some of the quasi public agencies
yeah,
in Harrisburg and also Philadelphia, and we kind of carried that forward as we looked nationwide. We didn't want to go in directly where everyone goes. If you go
yeah,
to the turnpike commissions or the waterworks departments, they have more money and there's a lot of opportunities there. People kind of they always want the big guy, and sometimes the big guy is flooded with competitors.
yeah. Now, were you competing with? I mean, there's some big IT staffing companies that have been around forever, like the Tech
Yep.
Systems and the K Forces.
Yeah, and then we also had Computer Aid was a big Pennsylvania one, but Tech Systems, Computer Aid were always there, and we would compete with them all the time. They always had a lot more money than we were, but we always persevered and beat them.
Yeah. And when you say the verticals, I totally agree with you. When did that start? Did you feel like everyone was kind of commoditized and you had to pivot some way, or how did that happen?
No, it wasn't that. It was more when I was looking at my business and when I was looking at the mix of companies and where we put our emphasis. I just saw an opportunity um, to focus, and it's really more of a focus in my mind because if your biz dev can focus that way, if your recruiters can focus that way, it's easier to move consultants from one blue to another blue, but it's much easier. These companies want the experience of companies that have the functional business knowledge as well as the technical knowledge.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll get into nearshoring in a
Yeah.
second, but that run up, I got into the IT staffing world right after the crash, so 2004, and the Indian H-1B world was big for my book of business. Was that something that you also grew on when you were making these
And
placements
what was
with the
your
help?
what was the question? Sorry.
Like Indian firms, H-1Bs as partners, was that a big part of your book of business?
Well, we had a fundamental process and expectation that all of our clients would be end clients. So we didn't go through other people and other companies. We would use those source companies, those guys on corp to corp or
Yep,
W-2 to supplement our recruiting teams. We actually took a recruiter and dedicated them directly to sourcing from India, sourcing from those Indian source companies. But I kept pushing my recruiting team to hire local, to
yeah,
hire W-2s, to higher salaries, and
yeah,
we never ever did sponsor. If we had visas, we went through other companies.
yeah, yeah.
But
And
it
I think
has
the
to be
reason
part. It has to be part of the solution. There's no way it's not.
Yeah, and I think the reason I'm intrigued by this is, just like if you were a realtor in 2001 or 2002, if you're in tech staffing in 1999 or 2002, everyone thinks it's easy. But the thing is, there's so much more competition. And, if you're doing tech staffing in 2009, you've got your choice of candidates, but there's no clients.
Correct.
You're doing tech recruiting in 1999. There's a million customers, no candidates.
It's
Yeah,
never easy, no matter what. It's never easy, and I can't tell me how many times I've heard saying that staff augmentation, staffing would go away and dry
yeah,
up.
yeah,
I heard it in 2000, at 2004, 2008, 2012. Just this year, you hear regarding AI. It's never
yeah,
going away. We may have to adjust. But I think what that means is you've got to build better processes internally. You got to hire better, and ultimately you got to deliver quality results at good pricing. It doesn't have to be the cheapest either. It's just got to be smart pricing.
yeah. And the business we're talking about, Doug, this is Arcus.
Yeah, Arcus. Yep.
And then When did Arcus enter Costa Rica?
Well, we started looking at it in around 2007. It came out of a strategic planning session that we had. And again, we'd thought about India, um, and I hired an outside consultant to evaluate different countries in Latin America. We put a condition that they had to be strong English speaking, strong technology wise, strong education wise, and competitive pricing, not the cheapest, but competitive. We looked at Panama, Costa Rica, Belize. People forget about Belize, and of course, Mexico. And we went to Panama, Costa Rica, Mexico, and Belize and checked them out. Fell in love with San Jose, Costa Rica. I mean, it was just once we got there, we knew it was the right place. Then that was 2007. By 2008, we were up and running. And
Yeah,
at first, we were up and running to backfill our staffing department. So it was literally sourcers first
yeah.
and recruiters second that were hired. And I think we had 10 people. Moved one of my recruiters from Harrisburg or Philadelphia down to anchor that
Okay.
project.
Yeah. Could you tell us more about just the calculus of vetting Panama, Mexico, Costa Rica, and Belize? And there's so many things to look at,
Yeah.
proximity, office space, hardware. Tell us, what were some of the things you looked at? And
Yeah, all the above. I mean, but part of it was, the geopolitics always plays a role.
yeah,
In Panama, that's what took Panama out because back then Panama didn't have the best rap with the U.S. Still may or may not.
yeah,
But, we looked at geopolitics, we looked at the education system, we looked at our competitors that were there, we looked at the call centers and the tech companies that were in these countries, knowing that they were training at very high levels. And we ended up recruiting away from the tech companies in San Jose. It's not easy, and there's a little bit of gut. And I think as a founder CEO, there's also a little bit of what do you like? I mean, I liked San Jose and the beaches of Costa Rica a lot better than I like Panama City or
yeah,
Mexico City. And Mexico City wasn't even safe. Costa Rica was moderately safe. It's certainly a lot more safe now.
yeah. And when you were doing this, you were still personally living in Harrisburg.
Yeah, I was burning the midnight oil just like any consultant would. I never left my family. I never left being in Harrisburg, but I jet setted. What changed for me in 2007 to 2012 really was living on US Air at the time. And
Yeah,
I will tell you what, that was another thing that did take into account was the flights. Now it's a little bit much easier, but back then, US Air was going daily into San Jose from Charlotte. So I could get in and out in the same day if I needed to. And there in the morning and take a night flight out. So and then they were only going to San Jose, but that was a challenge with like for example, Belize and Panama. Um, I had to go from Harrisburg and get to Miami and then different types of planes in and out of Miami. So flight and ease of that travel, but you also have to be there. You can't open in a foreign country without being there.
yeah, yeah. And you opened like you registered an official entity, kind of went all in on that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, listen, you have to do it right. I mean, going into a foreign country is hard. That was something we took into account as well. We went into a free trade zone, which made it a little bit easier. We did our research, hired a good attorney, hired a good accounting firm. It costs money to do this, and there's benefits to doing it, but you got to do it the right way. If you try to do it on the cheap, it just doesn't work. It really doesn't.
yeah. I can speak from my experience. Argentina is where I did what you did. Gosh, it's ranked like 150th or worse, in places to do business or ease of doing business. Where does Costa Rica kind of sit on there? Is it easy, hard, in the
Yeah.
middle?
No, it's easy to do business there, easy to do business as an American. They recognize the US, so banking and stuff isn't a problem. Contracts, everything is simple and it's in English, matter of fact. So Costa Rica was just prime for that. And for the most part, they're Spanish speaking first, but second, everyone else speaks English.
Yeah.
I remember I didn't speak Spanish. I wasn't. I had a little bit of Spanish in my toolkit, but I didn't speak it. It was amazing how many people did under the age of 30. Everyone did. So I would
Yeah.
go to a grocery store and I'd pick a line. The cashiers were always older and didn't speak any English. I'd pick the line where there was a young bag boy because then I
Yeah.
could always get through and do my checkout and stuff.
Sure.
But everyone speaks English, which makes it easy, and everything's in English.
Yeah. Talk us about Tell us about the first few customers. What kind of convincing did you have to do that, hey, it's not that crazy of a risk to have your IT people in Costa Rica?
Well, at first, it was my staffing and recruiting people. That was seamless to my customers. So we set up a process where they were qualifying, sourcing and qualifying, and then sending them to the US. And then US recruiters were then doing another qualifying and then sending them directly to a client. So those clients never saw that. That what that was for me to build up and augment my existing teams at much reduced costs. I mean, it was significantly cheaper than US costs. And my US team bought into it because if they were able to get quality and quality candidates and we could get more wins, it became a win-win and it worked. What happened where you were headed is I realized while I was there when I had 10 people hired that came out of industry in San Jose, I realized there was a lot of great talent there. So I could recognize the talent. And along the way, we started sharing with some of our best clients that we were in Costa Rica. We did that early and said, hey, listen, if you ever have a need for offshoring, would you consider nearshoring? We got the best solution for you. Our first client that bit was Comcast. So
Okay.
it was my biggest client and my first client
Yeah.
to go out of Costa Rica, and they did infrastructure support. We did DBAs and systems administrators. We found them at probably 80% less in price than we could find them or they could find them in the US. I mean, it was
Wow.
just amazing. And that was our test was Comcast. We went all in. We were like, listen, if we're going to do it, then we got to do it the right way. Those recruiters that we had on board helped me find the initial technical team. And then from there, I built out a technical management team on site there in Costa Rica.
Yeah. Incredible. And do you remember, I mean, it was a while ago. Do you remember those initial conversations with Comcast and, what
Yeah.
put them over the edge? Like, sure, we'll give this a try.
Yeah, a lot of it is people do business with who they trust, and so we had already had a reputation built, and it was a great reputation. They had a need, and to be candid with you, they were scared of India. I don't know that Comcast has ever gone to India, to my knowledge, but they had not been to India. They were looking at India. I gave them a solution that was much more palatable to them. They sold to their management, and it was very quick. I mean, we had. Uh, 10 people up and running very quickly. It really good bill rates still, but they were up and running. And then that scaled to probably almost 25 people on the Comcast team, which was huge for several years.
Yeah. And then what years was this? And maybe you were up
That
at
was like
20.
in 2000. That part was probably 2009, 10, 11.
Okay, interesting. So this is Great Recession when most US IT staffing companies were getting hit hard, and you had a solution that was just as good, but a massive cost savings for a company like Comcast.
Yeah, it's good and bad, Brian. I'll be candid with you. I mean, the offshoring, the nearshoring in this case of staffing and recruiting and back office made 100% sense. And it supported my core business. It helped me grow my core business. It gave me a competitive advantage. The pivot to more tech solutions, and I'll tell you, we did something else there as well. Was my entrepreneurial instincts going on fire and probably chasing that shiny object that I saw? Because I went from 2,000 square feet to almost 18,000 square feet in about 3 years. And we grew, including a technical inbound and outbound call center as well. So I scaled from 10 people to 225 people at my peak. Um, it was a crazy journey. What we had was quality people, great education, great English, and also great infrastructure. So we didn't have any problems with connectivity back to the States, and it worked. It really did. I mean, nearshoring works. People like nearshoring. Costs have gone up. It's not the way it was. I mean, I saw them rise during my 4 years in Costa Rica. I saw the rates go up every day. Every seemed like every day they were coming to me saying, I need more pay. I need more money or I'm going to leave and go someplace else.
Yeah. Um, when you talked about there were some companies you could recruit out of, if I remember way back, I think Intel might have been one of the first movers there.
Yeah. HP was the largest, Intel,
Yeah.
IBM, Amazon. I mean, all the big companies, and they had not just call centers. And when they had call centers in Costa Rica, they were technical call centers. They weren't customer service like you might get out of the Philippines or something like that now. But there were tech companies, there were software development companies. They had a very mature free trade zone set up,
Yeah.
and there were some good benefits of that, including security. But it was who's who driving around San Jose and still is.
Yeah.
And so that made it a lot easier to find. I mean, if you got I just picked out recruiters from other recruiting companies, but also out of the IBMs and the Amazons. So then they were super well trained. And I knew they had great backgrounds and educations.
Yeah. We like to keep it real on the show, and there's a lot of amazing things about nearshoring and especially Costa Rica. Can you tell us about some of the challenges that maybe you faced too, and either ones that you were able to overcome or even ones that were just really rough?
Listen, you're going to a foreign country. I mean, it's not a cakewalk. I don't care. You get some sparkles in your eyes and you see the volcanoes and the mountains and you think it's great, but there's headaches from transportation to housing to turnover. You run into issues around vendors there and paying of vendors. So you have to have local vendors. It's not easy. I don't think there's one thing that really jumps out at me, but I think there's a balance between understanding that you're there for business, not for a vacation. And so
Yeah.
you have to take it super seriously. Security is another issue. I mean, there was always an issue with security. And there always is when you're, in my case, an American, you're heading to a foreign country, you open up a proper and promising business, you've got an issue. Transportation of your team is an issue. Where they live is an issue. And you have an obligation as the CEO to protect not just your locals, but also to protect those who are flying back and forth from the US. And you had to integrate those cultures together or it wouldn't work long term either.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And
You can't just go for the beaches, even though they're the best.
yeah, did you get a chance to travel in country, go to
Yeah.
Manuel Antonio and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
of course. I mean, Manuel Antonio is my favorite. I was there before the road was built between San Jose and Jaco. I mean, it was a 2-lane road before the Chinese came in and built a highway, and it would take us hours to get to Jaco to the beach. But we did explore. We took time to explore. And we did some entertaining. We took clients down there. So Comcast sent people. A lot of my clients would want to go down there. So I used that as a way to convince them that it was a great place and that nearshoring was great. Of course, they wanted to spend 80% of their time at the beach and only probably 20% of their time in the office, but it worked for a lot of my clients.
Yeah. How would you look at Costa Rica today? Fast forward to 2026, present day. What is it good for? What is it kind of challenging for?
Listen, I think in general, nearshoring is going to be highlighted again. It's never gone away,
Yeah.
but there's lots of pressures again with India, with the Middle East, with what's going on geopolitically. Um, as a business owner, augmenting and setting up in Costa Rica or Latin America is a no brainer. To me, it's
Yeah.
a no brainer. I would do it again. I advise people and consult with people to help them do it. I'm biased towards Costa Rica, but countries evolve as well. It's a lot more expensive in Costa Rica now. Nicaragua is still cheaper. Parts of Mexico are cheaper. Now Colombia is a lot better. When I was there, Colombia wasn't safe enough for us to explore. Brazil's tough. Brazil's obviously Portuguese speaking, an isolationist country, so it's a little tougher. You mentioned Argentina. It's got a great rap, but it's so far away. I mean, there's just all these balances of what people
Yeah.
have to look at. But I
Yeah.
would encourage anyone and everyone to take a hard look at augmenting back office, some primary functions, sales, recruiting, technology. It makes a lot of business sense.
Yeah. I think this is a good segue to what you are doing now in your advisory role. Tell us more about your current company, Cross Borders, and
Yeah. Well,
how people can take advantage of it.
yeah, after I exited Arcus and I successfully sold Arcus, I successfully sold Arcus Public, which we didn't mention, which was my executive search company in the public sector. Arcus Solutions in Costa Rica closed. I just need to go on the record and telling everyone, and this will segue to my current business. I had a great solution, but I didn't have the right go-to-market strategy. So I ended up when Comcast, after 3 years, decided to pull back, I didn't have enough clients to sustain. And I didn't have the right strategy in place. Fast forward today, after spending 10 years in higher education in the US and in Dubai, 3 years ago, I went back into the business of consulting, helping companies primarily out of India and the Middle East as they were looking to enter the US market. So, working with startups, working with founders, strategy, but a lot of it around go to market because I realized I had to learn from my mistakes and my failures, also my successes, but I always lead with my failures, and go to market strategies are so key nowadays. So we primarily work with those founders and CEOs that help them get established here in the US, get them set up here in the US, and get them targeted, focused on the right companies and get them business because that's what's going to make them successful.
Yeah, amazing. Anything that I didn't ask you about Costa Rica that you think the audience should know?
If you don't want to go there for business, go there for pleasure. I think still one of the hottest tourist attractions or destinations in from the U.S. The people are amazing. You can't beat them, and just near shore in general. Tremendous opportunities for the right business people. Whether you're a small company or a medium-sized company or a very large company, you can save a lot of money and get some fantastic talent to support your teams.
Amazing. Doug, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and
Thank
experience
you.
on the Short Cafe podcast.
Thank you, and
We are,
congratulations to you and your successes as well.
thank you so much. We are sponsored by Plug Technologies, plugg.tech. Great way to connect talent from Latin America to growing U.S. companies. Again, this is the Nearshore Cafe podcast. We'll see you again next time. Thank you.